Use these mics.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we're live. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Burn the Wagon, where we're here to burn the wagon. That's patriarchy, capitalism, and colonialism. My guest today is Sal Martinez. And we have a couple of topics we want to discuss today, so we're going to get at it. What I'm going to do is our little prayer first, and then we'll get on to the topic that we want to get onto. First, I want to send love to anybody that's suffering from mental health issues. I want to send love to anybody that's suffering from domestic violence issues. I want to send love to any of you that are listening today or listening in the future. I want to send love to any of our Palestinian relatives. I want to send love to Mother Earth. And today we are coming to you from Pomo territory. And I'm going to let Sal give himself an intro. He's been on the show before. He was actually my first guest that I've ever had. And then we're going to give himself an intro, and then we'll get into the topic that we got.
Hello, everybody. Chame Maya, Toshi Sal Martinez. My name is Sal Martinez. I'm from the coast. I live here on the Manchester Point Arena Rancheria. Glad to be here and ready to. Thankful for being a guest here with Juan and part of his podcast, and really do appreciate the space that he does provide folks to be able to speak out and share things.
So, okay, you had a topic that you recently wanted to discuss, and that's disenrollment as a tribal member. But first, I wanted to let people know that aren't up to knowing that what it means to be a tribal member, an enrolled member. I want you to kind of explain that, and then we'll get into the topic of disenrollment.
Yeah, so it's interesting how terms, right? When we talk about tribal member, it's like even though the term member is used politically, it's actually citizenship. It's nothing like being like a club member. It's nothing like being a member of a secret society or a member of an elite society or elite club. But it does give that impression when we do use that term member. But I think there is a shift in when it comes to terminology. I think in sovereign communities, right? That they're starting to shift from saying member to citizen, because that's what we are. We are citizens. Tribal citizens. Not only are we tribal citizens, but we're also American citizens too. So that's so when it comes to voting and stuff, it's not everybody can vote in our election. Say American citizens can't vote in our elections because they are not tribal citizens. Mm-hmm. However, we have dual citizenship. We're tribal citizens who can vote in tribal elections, but we're also American citizens, and we can vote in American politics. We can vote in, even though we can't vote locally, but we could vote in the state and national national elections. You know, so. But yeah.
And the only way we can vote locally is by living in Point Arena, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The only way for you to vote locally is if you live in Point Arena, and if you're on the res, technically you're not in Point Arena. Yeah, in the city of Point Arena. Yeah.
And I've even been noticing on the map this comes up as Manchester.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into disenrollment and why it's a big topic lately, and how you're feeling about that. And if anybody out there also is on the opposing side that would want to join us eventually, that's a topic we want to bring up. So, just how you feel about disenrollment, and
Yeah, I mean, just in general, disenrollment, it's just flat out wrong. I don't think it's, I think a lot of folks use, say heinous crimes, what was it, child molestation, to say in a way justify, disenrolling somebody. But I mean, I get it. Actually, yesterday I spent like, when I first woke up, like I put in like, I don't know how many hours of like trying to research, like try to get a better feeling for, um, when it comes to, the perpetrators, and also when it comes to, what do you call it? The folks that have had experience as CSA,
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, child sexual abuse, and the aftermath of that, and stuff like that. But it was really interesting, like, just just talking, like pretty much just talking off the cuff, I guess,
Yeah.
and saying that, like, how we have this. There's not one of us goes through life without some kind of fantasy. All right. It could not only just like, just be with like, kids, or, 16 and younger, 14 younger, whatever. But, it could be like, say, like, like your wife's sister, or it could be like, somebody in the community that, you may have had like, like a fantasy about, right? Each and every one of us has gone through that. But the thing that kind of keeps us from, say, performing or acting out those fantasies,
Mm-hmm.
is like something like empathy, or something that like, whatever's synonymous with that, to keep us from acting out on those fantasies. And it's what was it? So I always saw, when I was reading about that stuff, I thought that was pretty interesting, about how, like, about how, like, it's very true that, each and every one of us has fantasies, but we know how to cut ourselves off, because sometimes, that we know it's wrong.
Mm-hmm. Would
you
that
know
be intrusive thoughts, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Or yeah, it's just like, there's I think, like, say they say that there's a thought that creeps into your mind, you're just like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
no, that
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, but like, with perpetrators, right, with pedophiles, that they sort of like have like these fantasies, almost like these OCD type overwhelming fantasies, and then some of them either like try to seek out that stuff to sort of feed into that fantasy, or even sometimes they break that barrier of wanting to act out their fantasies, right? And there's like neurological stuff, and there's just like all kinds of things that play into that, of like, what researchers have come up with. There's like the neurological side, there's the social, economic environment of it. There's like even like the prenatal stage. They said that it could start even like in the womb,
Mm-hmm.
of somebody who is like neurologically or chemically even imbalanced, because I guess there's like us who like think about stuff, but then there's a chemical in our brain. I think it's like a serotonin,
Mm-hmm.
that it's serotonin that actually like triggers whether we stop doing something or not. So it's and they said that they found that in a lot of the cases of where they, studied a pedophile, that they were actually like low in serotonin.
Oh, okay.
And then yeah, so that was like really, really interesting, right? But that's not to say that we should be more understanding and like empathetic towards folks who break the law. We shouldn't do that. We should definitely like punish these folks in ways where it's just like, what were you thinking?
Mm-hmm.
You should have stopped yourself. Like, it's just, it's wrong for you to do that, period, right? But I don't think that necessarily that disenrolling somebody is going to fix that altogether. You know what I mean? Like, trying to identify and trying to say, like, get that person, that try to get folks who are probably might be struggling with that, to get them the help that they need. And it's interesting too, on the other side of it, like when it comes to like getting help, because like even in some articles that I read, that it's even like there's even like some controversial methods
Mm-hmm.
in trying to keep folks, or in trying to say in trying to like trying to like give folks those tools of like, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't give any examples, or I mean, maybe there was like this, maybe there was an article, but dude, I was like already like 2-3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I was just laying in bed 2-3 hours, just like really wanting to know,
Yeah.
like what makes a pedophile tick, right? So, and then they said a lot of times, folks who experienced those incidences, those traumatic episodes, right, or have been victims of CSA, are what do you call it? It usually happens by somebody who's close within their circle of people. So somebody who's really close to you,
Mm-hmm.
and they said there's no like physical characterizations of like how to identify somebody. It could be anybody, right? It could be just like that one instance where somebody is just like, they just had a mental breakthrough and saying, I think I could act out my fantasy today,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's just crazy. And then they distinguish between like, what was it? Child abuse and child sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Child abusers, I guess, have been found that, they have like, those who abuse children have zero interest in committing child sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was pretty interesting too. So there's like a bunch of stuff, right? When it comes, and there's this one article that said that it's a very sophisticated thing for folks, for science to try to understand, because there's just so many different factors that plays into somebody who would do that. Historically, it has been going on for a long time. It's pretty recent for us to try to actually lift it up in a light to where we are actually talking about it now, where we are identifying it and saying that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like actually an issue that's been going on for a long time, and we're just now addressing it. Like just now, as in like the past like what, like the past like maybe like really past like I'd say 50 years. Let's just say 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody could fact check that, but yeah. So it's an interesting thing. But like anybody who pretty much like, it's like the only thing that you can really do is this like obviously punish that person that did the act, but also take measures to where it's prevented in the future, to where you can let folks know of like how to be. What was it? One thing that this one thing was saying. This one thing was saying is that identifying, say, like a child or somebody who has been abused, right? Trying to identify those traits, and then the other one is that is trying to get the word out that, hey, are you thinking about children
Mm-hmm.
in that kind of way, and it's wrong, we can get you help. And that's the only way that that's going to happen. As sick as that sounds, that's the only way that you're going to prevent that, or actually going to put something out there that's going to give folks a choice. And because perhaps there are people out there that use that excuse of like, I just felt like I didn't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
At least give some service out there to where it's just all like, hey, we're here for you. We're here for you to be like a better person. We want you to be a better person, So like any organizations out there, like even tribes, like, I'm all for prevention. I'm all for not thinking like 5-10 years. Like, I want us to think 50 to 100 years down the line. Whatever decisions we make today is going to affect 100 years later. and when we start disenrolling 100 years, and say like start disenrolling now and taking that like as a form of justice, 100 years later, say like our population may be like well depleted, before then, because it's like we can't seem to like think of think that far, but
And that was the whole type of like that was the whole idea of getting people as enrolled people, anyways, is eventually they'll, like you're saying, you'll be kind of like wiped out.
Yeah, I mean, like, because folks, I think it's been demonstrated time and time again. I mean, if you just Google, uh, was it tribal disenrollment, and you just look through the news, I mean, it still goes on even
Yeah.
today. There's folks who get disenrolled still because of the old rules long time ago, of like, if a native woman were to marry a non-native man, that they had to leave the reservation. Yeah, they had to leave. And uh, and then two, it's like, I think a part of it too was like to have their citizenship terminated.
Now, is this tribal leaders that are coming up with these rules, or is it the U.S. government that came up with these rules?
It's like at first it started out as a U.S. government thing, um, but then it's like, say, like, with us, like, obviously we evolved,
Mm-hmm.
in that sense of like, uh, it's like where say, like, in that same thing that I brought up in that example, that that obviously if a native woman marries a non-native man, that that won't happen. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even the native man could like live on the reservation or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tribe in Canada that that still practices that, where I forget which article that was, like, man, that was like years ago, but the lady was actually trying to fight that and saying that, like, that's old policy.
Mm-hmm.
um, and the tribe still enforces that. The tribe still has like uh, blood quantum rules, and that doesn't work either. That even plays into um, literal, say, like the breeding out
Mm-hmm.
of tribalism.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. It's just crazy. But yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was, because here it's not blood quantum in PA, it's,
it's descendancy.
yeah, descendancy.
Yeah, we changed that back in the '70s, I think.
And how do you feel about that?
Descendancy's better.
Okay.
Descendancy's better. I mean, it's like, this is it's like, if I feel like, if you could be born in the United States and and automatically become American citizen, that should be just as natural for us.
Mm-hmm.
But for us now, it's like we still have to fill out our what do you call it? Our dog pedigree form. If you were to compare our tribal enrollment form, right,
Mm-hmm.
with a like a pedigree registration, they're almost the same.
Wow.
Yeah,
And is that in just this tribe, or is that
I think it's everywhere.
okay?
Yeah, but yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good with. I was, when my uncle Norman told me about that, about how they changed that. They said that that's because it's just simply old. It's
Mm-hmm.
old policy, and we understood, like, that wasn't going to work, because but even during, even during that time, obviously, like, say, during, like, my mom's like generation or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, that and like my mom's generation, and even like my grandma's generation, that there was, like, folks who were marrying out, and that's natural.
Mm-hmm.
It's natural to be able to, like, look at another human being saying, like, "Ooh, I like you." It's just
Yeah.
natural like
Yeah.
that, right? It doesn't freaking matter of like your race, your ethnicity, whatever. So, sometimes, you just look at somebody, and you're just all like, "Yo, you're like very attractive. I like the
Yes.
way you
Yeah.
sound."
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just doesn't, like, trying to say put trying to stamp like percentages on stuff is
Mm-hmm.
definitely like a non-Indian thing. It's definitely not. It's not natural to like
Mm-hmm.
to human nature. It's not natural to even like human migration, and how we move around. For even in pre-contact times, we moved around a lot. But yeah, so yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely want to make that case today, and saying that, like, disenrollment is just wrong. Period. It just doesn't help nobody. It temporarily, like, say, fixes a problem. It causes problems when you're trying to bring up like old stuff and saying that, like, a person isn't originally from here, or they sort of just like moved in with the census and all that stuff. It's just like, it's like, yo, we don't, I feel like part of those convictions, don't include the thought that like reservations weren't like created for us to become governments. They were created as like, even in just the very name, reservation, right? Reservation. They apply that name to places like that are specifically for like safe havens for endangered birds, all right?
Mm-hmm.
For like endangered animals or an endangered plant, a reserve,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And for us, they were like, what was it? Encampments,
Mm-hmm.
you know? They were like, encampments to protect, say like and this is like the words of like historians, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like even during those times of hostile whites, preventing hostile whites from causing harm against the Indians. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So practically, okay, that's the term that I was looking for. Practically, reservations are internment camps.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're what do you call it? Refugee camps.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they are. Refugee camps. So for any kind of conversation of like they just kind of snuck into the role, it's just like, well, maybe because they were surviving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And two, it's just all like, and then another thing of it too is like when it comes to disenrollment is that like, you know, saying somebody who isn't originally from here. Yeah, there are some folks, say like even on our roll, that like aren't historically originally from here, but at the same time, they haven't jumped ship. They haven't like, there's folks that I know for sure that haven't, say like, disenrolled themselves from here, moved on to another tribe because they have a casino going, right? They got like all these different avenues for income, and so they're building their freaking economic profile to where they're scheduled to make like billions and billions of dollars,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that they could get like a bigger per cap or whatever, and get that nice what do you call it, stick built house, you know, you know, whatever wealth that comes with that. You know, they're not jumping ship, and they have like legitimate family ties, say like to some of those tribes. They're not jumping ship. They are loyal to here. They haven't left here, you know, and it's just like, that's what we should be basing our enrollment, or even our ideas of enrollment, or even citizenship,
Mm-hmm.
is that loyalty. You are loyal to here.
Yeah.
Or even then, I think like, say like, you know, a good friend of mine, my linguist friend, you know, Dr. Alex Walker, you know, he's been studying like Southern Pomo for over like 25 years.
Uh-huh.
He even wrote a book on it, which I recommend y'all reading it. I recommend at least buying it, you know,
What's
to
that book
support
called?
him. It's what was it? Southern Pomo Grammar. Yeah, be sure to check out Southern Pomo Grammar, and you know, give him a shout out even on like on Facebook, you know, tell him thank you because he's done a lot of work. And even his son, right? His son Nathan is like a super smart kid. You know, he's like, you know, he's 18 years old, but yet he's practically like a super, like, he's a freaking professor, doctor in Southern Pomo Grammar, or
Okay.
yeah, Southern Pomo Grammar.
Okay.
Yeah, dude is super smart. I definitely want to give a shout out to them. But recently, or not recently, past couple years ago, he actually got citizenship to become an Australian citizen.
Oh wow.
And he had to go through a lot to get that. He had to go through like, you know, paying stuff, and providing documents and doing all that stuff, right, for him to get citizenship. I feel like, you know, those kind of folks who really want to be citizens, like, just have like the mindset, or even like for us to like even set up those kind of things, like, you know, say like, you know, oh, okay, so you're going from another tribe, right? Like, you're already enrolled with another tribe, but then you say you want to enroll with us, you know, okay, we have a process for that.
Mm-hmm.
But then I know now we should have like some kind of similar process to that. But I know now that if you're part of another tribe, but yet we have a stipulation that where it's just like, if you've like received any kind of like services from your tribe already, it automatically nullifies your application with the tribe here.
Mm.
And it's just like, dude, like what if that person didn't have a choice
Yeah.
in wanting to get that money? Like, and then even then, how are they supposed to know a time in advance that was going to be like that was going to be like a factor in their application to be terminated?
Mm.
And it's just like, it's still not fair.
Yeah.
It's still not fair. It's still like if your parents did that, then that's your fault too, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, ah, man, it just, but even then, I feel like it's definitely like a reflection of like, of our, what do you call it? Of our mentality, right? Like, even though I think like in a lot of like American politics, we're pretty liberal, right?
Yeah.
We're pretty progressive. But I feel like when it comes to like our own politics, we're very, very conservative. We're pretty conservative.
In tribal politics?
I think in tribal politics, yeah, we're very conservative. But I think like even too, like say like even when it comes to say like the LGBTQAI community,
Mm-hmm.
there's just being honest with folks, you know, say like with like non-native people, right? That like it's like yeah, I think like, you know, there is this impression that like, you know, like native people, it's, you know, and there are native people that, you know, we do like love everyone. I mean, I do.
Yeah.
You know, I even have like a shirt at home that says human and rainbow, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't say everything, but you know, I definitely like love and respect each and every one of y'all. You know, I really do. But like, however, not every native person feels that way. If you were to like, I was even thinking of wanting to do a survey of like, what was it? Of like, say like in the two political parties, right? You have like, you know, the Democratic platform, which one of them, when it comes to same-sex marriage, or when it comes to marriage, you know, theirs is like, you know, pretty much, you know, marry who you want. Mm-hmm. You have the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
And then, but on say like on the conservative side, the Republican side, it's like their policy, on the RNC, the Republican National Convention. Mm-hmm. Their one of their policies is one man, one woman. Indian country, what do you support? Do you support love who you want to love, or one man, one woman? And I'm on the side of like most native people will pick one man, one woman.
Yeah.
Because I remember this one thing of reading of this one thing of like, this is during when Bernie Sanders was running for president. There's this one blog where this one black woman who wrote a thing about how the reason why Bernie Sanders cannot really get the black vote is because he's one, not black enough, and two, he's not conservative enough like Hillary Clinton. The reason why Hillary Clinton can't get that vote is because she's a bit more conservative. and then she was just like, because even though perhaps like, you know, black people don't go to church, but that is the basis, that is the foundation for their beliefs, right? When it comes to like, you know, gays, lesbians, and all that stuff, or stuff like that. That like, when it comes to say even just like, you know, beliefs and stuff.
Yeah.
That it's like, that's their spiritual foundation.
Yeah.
That is their what do you call it? That's like the core of their beliefs, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, so say like, even though say like, you know, there's black folks that vote Democrat or they vote progressive, are there, they are politically, they are politically conservative, or no, they're politically progressive, but they are socially conservative. That's what it is. And I feel like Indian people, we're exactly like that.
Okay. No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And because you see it like, but you also see the term two-spirit a lot recently. And do you know about like specifically us as a tribe, how it was like that before? Did we celebrate two-spirited people before colonization, or is that even something that was tracked as Pomo people?
I mean, I wouldn't say celebrated because it was tolerated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't like because, and I'm only basing this off of like this one book called what was it? Men, Men to what was it? I think it's called Men to Women, Women to Men.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and I forget exactly. I forget the author who wrote it, but it was really cool actually seeing Pomo, some kind of Pomo in there,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was like some little tidbits of it because even like the author was saying was in the intro that it was like super difficult or it is difficult to try to find any kind of reliable information
Mm-hmm.
or trying to find like some kind of anthropological uh, study
Mm-hmm.
on like say like homosexuality, um, trans
Mm-hmm.
uh, in like ancient Native America, right?
Yeah.
And because like anthropologists like was anthropologists' main goal was to try to figure out what the man role was and what the woman role was, all right?
Yeah.
And I think there's like a couple of instances. Then this lady pointed out that there was this. There's a couple of instances where the what do you call it? Where say like an informant would be talking about like there might be another one
Mm-hmm.
that like might be another gender or like levels of gender like
Mm-hmm.
in the tribe that like that sort of the anthropologist was like, yeah, they told me, like he would note that, yeah, they told me it's like some other stuff, but that's not what I'm here for.
Mm. So they didn't even care to study it.
No,
Yeah.
because in early science was very conservative.
Yeah. Okay.
Early science was very
Like
conservative.
you said, male, female.
Oh yeah,
Just
black and white.
Yeah, focuses on those two.
Yeah.
Those things only.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, this is like, do you know where this possibly could be coming from? This homophobia. I mean, I guess you said it wasn't really like it was tolerated before colonization, because I was always under the impression that colonization kind of like is what brought that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, colonization, like early, I think like early Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
definitely brought that. I mean, early Christianity even brought say like uh you can't just be happy without ever feeling sad.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm basing that off of like what was it this one thing that I read in this book called I can't remember, but it was written by Ronald Takaki. Ronald Takaki. Anybody look up that guy? He wrote a book, and in that book, I can't remember the name of it. That like that in there he what do you call it? He brings up an interaction between like that. I mean, he brings up like this journal entry by one of the colonial people on the East Coast. And in their entry, they said practically they pretty much he said that he could not understand how these savages can be so happy. He could not understand how they could be so happy. And he's like they could just like laugh.
Mm-hmm.
They could just like laugh at nothing. They could just like they feel like they could just like they laugh when they work. They seem to like enjoy their kids. Like they just could not understand how somebody could be happy like that. And he said, and then he wrote also in his journal that this is the reason why we're here, is so that we could show these people what suffering is. We could show these people that because the only way you're going to understand true happiness is you have to understand true suffering.
That's wild.
And like and this is why probably God put us here, so that we could show these people what the true grace of God, because God is happiness. But see, but in the way how God teaches you happiness, he shows you suffering. So you have to, so their mindset is that you have to suffer first before you could experience happiness. You just can't be happy.
That's wild.
That doesn't make any sense. You just can't be happy. That just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, so even that ideology, say, like, stems from that,
mm-hmm.
you know, and yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of cases, which I'm pretty sure there's probably even folks watching this right now that can't think of instances where they did experience some kind of like what do you call it, an instance where it's like, you had like a super religious person telling them that they're evil, that they need help, because it's like that it's not natural. God didn't make you that way. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, I don't buy into that.
Either.
Is there any other topics that you wanted to bring up besides disenrollment, or get into disenrollment a little bit more? Or
we're kind of are just speaking on stuff, but
yeah. Any topics in your life lately that you want to bring up?
Any
questions that anybody that might have watching, you guys can definitely ask away. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, man, just really wanted to put it out there that the disenrollment is no good.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever should be like part of reasonable discussion of seeking justice. It's only going to lead to more.
Yeah.
It's only going to lead to retaliation. I think there's like, examples that you've seen, like on my Facebook page of like, where I think like somebody like, mentioned like, like how would you feel about disenrolling, like, pedophiles and stuff? And I'm just all like, I don't think so. I don't think that's because say that person gets like disenrolled, right? And then all of a sudden, like, you get like a family member who like later on, years later, ends up getting into those like top positions of being being on council.
Mm-hmm.
And then they retaliate. And then they, but then obviously they look for reasons why they should like disenroll them.
Yeah.
And it could be just as simple as well, while that person was in here, that we found that they like mishandled funds, right?
Yeah.
Disenroll them, right?
Yeah.
And then say like, okay, that political head, or that former political head, ends up getting disenrolled, but then say another family member or whoever on that other side gets into those political positions, and then they disenroll them because they disenrolled them, and then they found that they did something crooked in politics or whatever, or they signed a check or something.
Yeah.
And then so look what's happening.
Yeah.
It's an infinite cycle.
Yeah.
And it's like with this one thing I read about how like how do you say like how do you break the cycle of what was it? How do you break the cycle of say like abuse, or how do you break the cycle of like an argument,
mm-hmm.
where it's like it gets pretty heated,
mm-hmm.
and like, so say like, there's this back and forth, right? And they're just in a simple relationship. There's a back and forth between say like, you should do the dishes, or no, I don't want to do the dishes. Yes, you should. No, I don't want to. So there's this, so now you got the cycle going of yes and no, yes and no, yes and no, right? In order for you to be able to break that cycle, is one side needs to what do you call it? Needs to submit.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to what do you call it? And it starts with apologizing. And then it moves on to where it's just like you start recognizing what may have, like, say, made that other person upset. To be like, I know you wanted me to do the dishes, and I was just having, I think like, I'll try to do better at that. You never want to say, give yourself excuses. You never want to excuse yourself, right? You just want to say, I apologize, to open it up, and then start naming off the reasons why you're apologizing.
Mm-hmm.
or naming off solutions for yourself, saying that like I'll do better, I'll try to get up earlier, I'll make sure to do it even like before I go to sleep, stuff like that. And then because what you're doing is like you're submitting and you're trying to get that other person to open up. You're trying to get them to open up, and once they do, you shut your mouth, and so that they can speak. They said that like, well, you know, you should have done the dishes, right? You should, stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. You should just do them and, whatever. And I'm just like, okay, or you could just say like, okay, all right. Yeah. Like, I'm here. I hear you. I will do better. And, because, I just don't want us to like fight anymore, So you would have to like swallow your pride a lot in order for you to get to that point, to just have those, to have that mutual agreement to get to that point, But that's because, say like you yourself, if you were to recognize it first, you'd be all like, oh yeah, no, I have to apologize.
Yeah.
You have to be the one to do it. Because when it comes to a cycle, I guess what I'm getting at is when it comes to the cycle, nobody's right and wrong. We're all doing the same freaking thing. Just creating a cycle and going nowhere.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you were saying, and then that eventually the numbers and the amount of people that are in the tribe are just nothing.
You don't disenroll the person who's either telling you yes you should do the dishes, or no, they don't have to do the dishes. You shouldn't disenroll a person for that.
Yeah.
You should try to reason with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Reason with them, or even then say like, it's not only limited to child molesters. I mean, say like corruption in politics or embezzlement. You shouldn't be disenrolling people for that. Somebody mentioned that in the comments, and I'm just all like, because I've been watching C-SPAN for a long time now. The worst thing that can happen to a politician is you not voting for them. That's their biggest punishment. If you feel like, and it's not only limited to tribal politics, if you feel like a politician or even a person that's supposed to represent you in the state assembly, in Congress, in local government, in the federal government, whatever, if you feel like these people are not representing your best interests, the best thing that you could do as a voter is not vote for them, and to never vote for them again. That is their biggest punishment. That's the biggest punishment to a politician ever, is never voting for them ever again. And we do that. Like somebody was all saying that, like, do you believe in just like, say like banning them from like, say, meetings and stuff like that? And I'm just all like, we do that. We did that already to like some folks, but we haven't done it to everybody that we feel like, has done wrong to the tribe. But even to those folks, it's like, we don't vote for them. They, no matter how many times they get back, they put themselves on the ballot, for a vote, it's like they get called out constantly at the meetings. They get called out and saying that, like, we still remember what you did.
Yeah.
And then those folks tell their people, whoever's there, like, don't vote for that person because this is what they did. And then they don't vote for them. And then they said, oh yeah, that's true. I'm just like, so there are punishments that we already do, but in a very peaceful way, in a not so extreme way, to where it's just like where we're disenrolling or putting resolutions on people and saying that they can't run for council or whatever, just because our vote does that already.
Yeah.
So it's so yeah, I mean,
and when it comes to disenrollment, who makes that decision?
It's usually the council people, tribal council, and their beliefs. Their beliefs.
And like you said, it depends on what family has beef with what family or whatever, or what person has what beef with what person.
It could stem from that. Yes.
Yeah.
It could stem from that. Yeah. And then too, it's like when it comes to disenrollment, that oh man, what was the point I was going to make? Totally forgot. But the thing is like with disenrollment is, I remember reading this article years and years ago and it's from Indians with the Z .com, I think, .com or .org, one of the two. But that's a website, and it's ran by a tribe. I think it's like one of the Cherokee nations, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it's ran by one of them.
Cherokee princesses.
The Cherokee real ones. But like they read an article where this one native lawyer was talking about how like most of the tribes that he's worked with, if not all the tribes that he's worked with, have no laws in their thing, in their like constitution, like say bylaws, constitution that protects tribal civil rights.
Okay.
We have no tribal civil rights.
Wow.
So civil rights meaning that civil rights meaning like, protection of your citizenship and right to speech and all that stuff. We have nothing like that.
And is that just here, or that's?
I want to say it's everywhere. Until say like somebody here, or say like if there is a native person that's like listening right now, or a bunch of them, say like in Canada, like dude, like I'm saying now, it's like I don't think anybody has any kind of policies in place that do protect say like tribal citizenship.
That's crazy. So at any given time, anybody that's an enrolled member could be disenrolled for any given reason.
Any given reason. It doesn't even have to be. It doesn't even have to be like a crime.
Uh-huh.
It could just be like, oh, you're not originally from here, or you're causing a problem.
That's insane.
It's like, freaking yeah, Juan, you and your burn the wagon stuff, it's causing us a problem.
Yeah.
We need to get you out of here. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So it's like they could do that because there's no laws that protect you.
That's insane.
Yeah, there's no laws within the tribe that can protect you. It's like we're just sort of really dependent on our own goodwill. But then how long is that going to last?
Fuck. That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How long is that going to last?
Yeah.
Like our goodwill, how long is that going to last? Especially when we continue on to the path of not learning our own tribal sovereignty, or not learning our own history of what our sovereignty went through. And it's tough. It's tough trying to get that information together. I spent a long time reading stuff and really trying to understand like our history and like how like we came about, and just like, just the lands here, right?
Yeah.
That took a lot of digging, and stuff. And, there's stuff that like, Graham told me about, but then there's stuff that I didn't know, for example, about like how we started out with 40 acres, on the, what is now known as the Manchester side, over there at Padahau, because the Padahau village moved from say like the mouth of the river, and then went farther up, due to encroaching whites, right? So like, what was it? So yeah, we started there, and it's because there was a group called the Northern California Indian Association helped us purchase land for us to actually be there and not having to like be moved around all the time.
That's crazy.
Because the only way we were like, the only way that we were actually making a living and making a living is that we were like jumping from one farm to another.
Oh, okay.
Just doing seasonal harvest and stuff. But when the work's done, it's like you got to move.
Yeah.
You can't stay there. So it's like they bounce back and forth from the coast to the valley to everywhere else.
There's no permanent housing for them.
Yeah, there was no permanent housing. We were considered as landless, homeless Indians. California Indians in general were considered as landless, homeless Indians.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's during most, like, is that like the gold rush time?
That was even during the Spanish occupation.
Okay.
That was even during the missions.
Okay.
Well, it's like they went from Spanish, then to Spanish government, then to Mexican government.
Okay.
But yeah. Like even at the tail end of like, the Mexican government, when their presence was here, the missions were still active and still carrying out, what they were meant to do.
Because that's where we get Garcia River from.
Yeah, that's where we got Garcia River from from a guy that was like a Spanish general,
Uh-huh.
and he was a veteran, and he was granted land grants. One that was considered the land grant of the North. What was it?
Uh-huh.
Rancho del Norte.
Uh-huh.
Uh, that's here, and then the Marin one,
Oh,
or the
okay.
land grant that was in Marin. So he hired what was it, a domo mayor,
Mm-hmm.
to manage the ranch. What was it, the Rancho del Norte land grant here, and he mostly stayed in Marin with his like 3 Indian wives.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's actually an account of was in this one book, Mendocino, Lake County Remembered. I think that's what it's called, but it's an old one. Got some old terminology and stuff, and you know, it's like I know that we're transitioning from like using Indian to like Native, or transitioning from American Indian to Native American, or even some folks are just saying Native. But it's just like it's still so fun. That, I mean, on a separate note, it's like these terms are still centered around whiteness. They're still centered around whiteness. Like no matter how you slice it, it's like I'm Native. It's just like, so you're still playing into whiteness though.
Yeah. What would you want to be? I guess what would you rather be called? Native, indigenous, Pomo, Padahaw?
Yeah, I mean, like, was it?
Or would you
Yeah,
rather
I guess.
people just like
Yeah, I
straight
guess.
up say your village? Like,
Yeah,
you know?
that's how it was though.
Yeah. Okay.
It was like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Padahokeya. It's like from,
Padahaw.
yeah, the ones from what was it? The ones from, how can I say that? The ones from the river mouth.
Okay.
The ones from the open river mouth.
Okay.
That's what that is. Yeah.
Right on.
But yeah, that's what that is. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you guys for joining. I appreciate you coming on, and last time you were on was a live show, which was like a year ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I appreciate you continuing to come on and continuing the language class every. What did you guys do? A Tuesday now?
We moved it Fridays.
Okay. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that, because every week it's beautiful, and like I said last time I was in there, my aunt's in there, so you have elders in there, you have youngsters in there, you have all kind of like different age groups. It's beautiful to see, and I definitely want to learn more about hand games and everything that you're doing. So I appreciate you and all of that you teach me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Always having a good time. It's all about having a good time. But then you have something like disenrollment that can be a huge downer.
Yeah. And it's super important to speak about, and I like that. And like me personally, I'm not an enrolled member, so I just want to be able to create the space for people to talk about it.
Absolutely.
And then, like I said, I really want to be able to hold a space where we have a person that's on the opposing side, and we see what they have to say about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's always good to see what people start saying on the other side.
No, that's fair. No, that's really fair. It's like I was sort of like trying to get at that. I know I posted some things on Facebook where it stemmed from like this one hearing I was watching, called it was where when Senate committee members were say like not like interrogating, but like they were pretty much just like they had this conversation
Mm-hmm.
with like CEOs of like, the social media companies. Mm-hmm. Like they had Twitter, I'm sorry, X. Mm-hmm. They had X there. They had they had Facebook there. They had Snapchat, or Facebook Meta, Snapchat, and Discord. Mm-hmm. Members of those companies, right? And then and they were just really giving it to them. But then I was just all like, I wonder who would. I wonder how folks would react to that. So, I posted one where it said that we need to disenroll the companies for, say, disenroll social media CEOs for exposing our kids to CSAM, mm-hmm. Child sexual abuse media. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I said, I posted a separate one where I said we need to disenroll the parents that didn't protect their kids from CSAM.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a couple of reactions on the first one, but then on the last one I didn't get too much. I'm just like, so it's like
out here stirring the pot.
Yeah, because I want to have a conversation. I really want to have like a meaningful, reasonable conversation around this.
Yeah, and I think it's good to have a conversation. Because like the thing with disenrollment, people just don't have a conversation. They just go, "Oh, you're just disenrolled."
Yeah, it's like, well, because like, I mean, yeah, I like to think that, say, like, even in pre-contact times, we were very reasonable people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we'll sit and listen to you kind of thing. But then now in post-contact, it's like we're quick to judge people. We're quick to judge. We're quick to say that like one, like, we're quick to say like, we're quick, as in we could go from 0 to 60, and it's just like an issue that you could just go 0 to 5,
mm-hmm.
like, just chill. You got to listen to the whole story first.
Yeah.
And really think about it before you could actually jump to conclusions,
mm-hmm.
and like even ask yourself, even what you're thinking or what you might have heard or whatever is true. You gotta question everything sometimes, and just kind of wait for that absolute moment where you're just like, oh, that was true, or, oh, okay, there was some things that I think I misheard, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just like, we're quick to judge. That's the thing.
And I think people's pride is a little bit too, they have too much pride to sit back and say what you just said. Like, oh, you know what? I was wrong right there. So maybe I should just say sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. It's like even in politics, right? I mean, being on the school board, going to like a couple of CSBA conferences, and helping me becoming a better board member, essentially becoming a better politician.
Mm-hmm.
That one of the things that they tell you is that it's okay to admit when you're wrong,
mm-hmm.
and it's okay to admit that you don't know everything. You're just human. You're not supposed to know everything, and that it's easier to admit something that you do not know, rather than trying to save face and coming up with excuses as to why you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's it kind of gives this like indication that you're not comfortable with yourself,
mm-hmm.
and folks can sense that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, they've taught me a lot. Just being on the school board, just taught me a lot about that, about like, just really confronting that kind of stuff, and just just being honest with yourself and being good, in that way of being good and just admitting stuff.
Yeah.
And that that it's not just you. You have a team.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just you. You have a team.
Absolutely.
You always have a team.
Right on. Thank you, Sal. Appreciate your conversation today, and appreciate all you guys tuning in on us live or in later on. What's up, Vic? What's up, fam? So yeah, I appreciate you guys. Follow us on Spotify. Follow us here on Instagram. Share us with people on Instagram, YouTube. All of this, I'm going to post this right now, and then we'll post it on YouTube later. Thank you guys. Peace and love.